What would you do if you woke up surrounded by 49 strangers and discovered that, every 2 minutes, one of you had to die? Worse still, what if you were given the power to decide who would be next, while knowing that eventually the choice would come down to you? 50 people suddenly awaken inside a dark, unfamiliar chamber. They are standing on separate marked spaces arranged in 2 circles around a strange black device in the middle of the room. Nobody knows where they are, how they got there, or why they have been brought together. They are men and women of different ages, races, occupations, and backgrounds, and at first their only common feeling is confusion. Almost immediately, however, the confusion turns into panic. One of the people tries to move away from his assigned position. The machine reacts instantly. A warning sounds, and before anyone can understand what is happening, a powerful beam strikes him and kills him. His body disappears from the room. The remaining people freeze in terror. They soon discover that touching another person or stepping away from their designated position will result in the same punishment. Then another person dies. And another. The deaths continue at regular intervals, roughly every 2 minutes. At first, nobody understands how the victims are being chosen. They desperately search for a way out, shouting questions and demanding answers from one another. Some believe they have been kidnapped by criminals, while others wonder whether they are part of some kind of experiment. As the group watches another person die, they notice something unusual about the device in the center. Each person has some ability to influence the selection. By making a particular hand gesture, they can cast a vote against another person. The votes determine who will be killed when the next 2-minute period ends. The discovery changes everything. They are no longer simply prisoners waiting helplessly for the machine to choose them. They have been given control over who dies. The group tries to understand the rules. They realize that they cannot vote for themselves, and nobody can simply refuse to participate because, if no one receives enough votes, the machine will eventually select someone anyway. Their time is constantly running down, forcing them to make decisions before they have enough information to trust anyone. A young college student proposes a temporary solution. Since the group needs more time to understand the situation, they agree to vote out older people first. The idea is that eliminating those considered least likely to survive for many more years will keep the younger members alive while they search for another way out. One elderly man begins telling the others that he has seen something before. He remembers being abducted and claims that aliens were involved. Eric, one of the younger men in the group, has a similar memory. He recalls trying to flee Los Angeles before being pulled upward and losing consciousness. When he woke up, he was already inside the strange chamber. The old man's story makes the others uncomfortable, but instead of allowing him to explain further, the group votes him out. As more people die, the survivors begin revealing pieces of their lives. Some discover that they know one another. One man recognizes a woman nearby as his wife. Another realizes that a doctor standing in the circle is someone with whom he had been having an affair. The situation becomes increasingly personal because the people around them are no longer anonymous strangers. The group also starts judging people based on what they learn about them. A man is accused of domestic violence after a police officer claims to know what he has done. The accusation turns the others against him, and he is eventually eliminated. Later, several minority members are selected in quick succession, prompting one African American man to accuse the group of becoming racist. The accusation creates another confrontation. The police officer responds angrily and makes openly racist remarks. His behavior immediately turns the attention of the group toward him. Even though he had previously influenced others against different people, his own words now make him a target, and the group votes him out. The deaths continue, and the survivors realize that they need a better system if they're going to keep themselves from being randomly eliminated. At one point, they attempt to distribute the votes evenly. The idea is simple: if everyone votes for the person beside them, no individual should receive enough votes to be selected. For a moment, it seems as though they have found a way to defeat the machine. But someone breaks the agreement. A man votes for the pregnant woman. Eric notices what has happened and votes against the man who broke the agreement. The result is a tie, forcing another vote. Eventually, the man who betrayed the arrangement is killed. The pregnant woman now becomes one of the most important people in the room. The group is also aware that a young girl is among them. Some believe the child and the pregnant woman should be protected because of their vulnerability. Others argue that everyone entered the chamber under the same rules and therefore nobody deserves special treatment. This disagreement divides the survivors. Eric becomes one of the leaders of the group that wants to protect the pregnant woman and the little girl. A bearded man and several others lead the opposing side. They believe that allowing the woman and child to survive simply because they are more vulnerable would be unfair to everyone else. The two groups begin competing for votes. Every round becomes a negotiation. People plead for their lives, accuse one another of lying, reveal secrets, and attempt to convince the others that somebody else is more deserving of death. Alliances form and collapse almost immediately. Some people willingly sacrifice themselves. One person steps out of his assigned position, knowing that the machine will kill him, in an attempt to give the others more time. Others follow his example later. These moments briefly interrupt the constant arguments, but the machine continues its countdown regardless. The survivors also discover that some people have been lying about their identities and relationships. A man and woman claim to be married, apparently hoping that the group will be less willing to eliminate a couple. Eventually, their story is questioned. Under pressure, they admit that they created the relationship to make themselves more valuable to the others. The man's deception costs him his life. Meanwhile, the opposing factions become increasingly desperate. A man attacks a lesbian woman because of her sexuality, but the group turns against him instead. Other people are eliminated after revealing prejudices, secrets, or behavior that the rest of the survivors find unacceptable. Eventually, the number of people becomes small enough that every vote carries enormous weight. Eric's group suffers serious losses, but it manages to survive the struggle against the opposing faction. The bearded man's side gradually disappears until Eric's faction controls the remaining circle. Eventually, only 4 people remain: Eric, the pregnant woman, the little girl named Katie, and a quiet man who has survived almost entirely without participating in the voting. The silent man has remained neutral throughout the entire ordeal. He has rarely, if ever, used his vote, and his refusal to take sides has allowed him to survive while everyone else has been forced to make decisions. But now there are too few people left for neutrality to continue. The remaining survivors realize that the silent man must eventually become part of the final calculation. They vote against him, and he is killed. Now there are only 3 people: Eric, the pregnant woman, and Katie, the little girl. The room is almost empty. After watching dozens of people die, the 3 survivors understand that they have reached the final stage of the game. Eric tells the pregnant woman and Katie that one of them needs to survive. He proposes that he and Katie should sacrifice themselves so that the pregnant woman can live. Katie trusts him. Eric tells her that if they both step out of their circles, the pregnant woman will be the only person left. Katie accepts the plan. The pregnant woman also believes Eric intends to sacrifice himself. Katie steps out of her position. The machine immediately kills her. But Eric does not move. Instead, at the last possible moment, he casts his vote against the pregnant woman. The machine strikes her. She dies. For a moment, Eric appears to have won. Katie is dead. The pregnant woman is dead. Eric is the only person visibly remaining. But the machine does not release him. Eric waits. Nothing happens. Then he realizes that the game is not finished. The pregnant woman was carrying an unborn child. The machine registers the unborn baby as another living participant. Eric is stunned. He has already betrayed Katie and killed the pregnant woman, believing that doing so would make him the sole survivor. Now he discovers that there is one final person standing between him and freedom. The unborn child. Eric must vote again. He looks toward the pregnant woman's body, realizing that the baby inside her has effectively become his final opponent. There is no possibility of negotiation, no argument left to make, and no one else in the room to influence his decision. Eric casts his vote. The unborn child is killed. At last, the machine stops. Eric suddenly wakes up outside. He is lying on the ground in Los Angeles. For the first time since waking inside the chamber, he is no longer standing on a marked circle.